पता नहीं कौन है? बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम इन्नल्लाहा व मलाइकतहु युसल्लूना अलन नबी या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू सल्लू अलैहि व सल्लिमू तस्लीमा। अल्लाहु अकबर अल्लाहु अकबर अल्लाहु अकबर अल्लाहु अकबर अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम अशहदु अन्ना अमीरल मोमिनीन व इमामल मुत्तक़ीन अलियन वलिल्लाह अशहदु अन्ना अमीरल मोमिनीन व इमामल मुत्तक़ीन अलियन हुज्जतुल्लाह हय्या अलस सलाह الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال الشأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت قال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعظ عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلق العباد واليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذره خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذره شرا يره نشهد ان لا اله الا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد ان محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه واله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقا وهوى اوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فانه حبل متين وعروة الوثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو اصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا اهل الكتاب تعالوا الى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم الا نعبد الا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا صلوا على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. All of you who are our online audiences as well as those who are present, I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. The verse that I recited for today's khutbah is from Ali Imran chapter 3 verse number 64. And the reference is the shahadat of our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam, and inshallah we will be commemorating tonight and tomorrow night, as there will be a series of 2 majalis tonight, starting at 8 p.m. Majlis will be in Urdu, and tomorrow's night Majlis, inshallah, starting at 8 p.m. will be in English. All of you are requested to participate online. That Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, who was born in the year 200 part, and they were associating lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that said, we find that a lot of time these debates came about. So Quranic ayat was already there. It said, "O people of the book, come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or come, let's gather on a common word between us and you, that we will worship no one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we will not ascribe any partners to him." Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I think the online feed has stopped. There was an interruption in the live feed, so that's why I stopped. So with that said, I recited this ayat to begin our discussion. But the main discussion will be about our 11th Imam. The title of Askari is not appropriate when used for people. Askari, in its literal meaning, has the connotation of a town, which is, a garrison town, a town where there's, army and others, they live there. And there's originally, it emerges from the word lashkar, their army bases or a place of gathering of army personnel is called askar. And that's why Imam alayhi, because he lived in that town, he was associated with it. So a lot of time people are associated with the towns that they live in. Imam was born in somewhere else, but he was, titled with the place that he spent the majority of his life. So just like, a lot of scholars who might be originally from India and Pakistan, but the fact that they studied in Najaf, they associate the word Najaf with them, and they say Najafi or Ummi or Mashhadi or whatever, title that they want to associate with them. So with that said, Imam alayhi came to known as Askari. And not just 11th Imam, but also 10th Imam. But the fact that you associate the word Askari, for people, it is not permissible or it is inappropriate sometimes because of one of the meanings of the word Askar. One of the meanings of the word Askar, it is used with, for example, Angure Askari. Angur is the grapes, and Angure Askari means seedless grapes. So seedless grapes means the grape which does not have any seeds. And it was used for Imam alayhi by the enemies to deny any progeny for him. And to in return deny the wujud of 12th Imam, Imam Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif. So there was this big debate. Imam alayhi had kept the wiladat of his son hidden for obvious reasons. There were people who were after him. They knew that he'd be the 12th one for whom we have heard all of these hadiths, that he will come and he will bring reform and he will, now how long it will take, that was not mentioned, but he will come and he will remove all the injustice and whatnot. So all of these Khulafai Abbasi, they feared. So right away they were after knowing that who would be the next. And when they didn't find anything and didn't see that any birth in the family of Imam Hasan Askari, this was associated with him, that he's Askar. That means the one who's without any progeny. Of course, that is one of the meanings that people have associated. So sometimes associating this word with an individual might not be appropriate. But the connotation, the original one, is because of the town that Imam lived in, which was for known fact in the history where there were army bases there and it was a garrison town. So with that said, they tried to denounce the existence of 12th Imam. Once again, if that was the case, why would we call the two Imams who are buried over there to be Askariyain, right? So you have the 10th Imam who's buried there and you have the 11th Imam who's buried in Samarra. Both of these Imams are called Imamain Askariyain. Of course, the word Askari is associated with the 11th Imam, but both 10th and 11th are referred to as Askari. With that said, I just want to recite one tradition from our 11th Imam because of all of these doubts that were coming about. Imam said before his Shahada, فَقَالَ لَهُ Abu Muhammad, أَبْشِرْ يَا بُنَيَّ, good news, O my son. فَأَنْتَ صَاحِبُ الزَّمَانِ, so that you are the master of the era. وَأَنْتَ الْمَهْدِي وَأَنْتَ حُجَّةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى أَرْضِهِ وأنت ولدي ووصي وأنا ولدتك وأنت محمد بن الحسن بن علي بن محمد بن علي بن موسى بن جعفر بن محمد بن علي بن الحسين بن علي بن أبي طالب. Imam mentions every single one in his ancestry that you are the master of the era. You are the guided. You are the proof of Allah on earth. You are my son and the successor, and you are Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, and then Imam goes all the way to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then he also says, you're the son of Rasulullah, you're the seal of all the successors. The way Rasulullah was seal of all of the Anbiya, he was Khatimul Anbiya, you are Khatimul Awsiya. You are the seal of all of the successors. Prophet gave good news about you and named you and gave you the title that you possess right now. This was very important note from 11th Imam. because there was this doubt that was being created about the 12th Imam. And guess what? They were successful to an extent, because aside from Madhab al-Tashayyu, no other person believes in the wujud of 12th Imam. They all have the belief of Mahdi, who will reappear, who will come one day, who will be born one day, and all those other beliefs that they have. But no one has the belief that he was born in the year 255. He went into occultation in the year 260. He then went into the major occultation in the year 329, and he is still in the ghaiba, and he will reappear one day. That concept is only with Madhab al-Tashayyu. So Imams stand against the false and deviated sects was the reason I chose this ayat in the beginning, that Imam is calling upon all of these different sects to come together, all of the different people to come together, especially those who are Ahl Kitab. Ya Ahl Kitab, ta'alaw ala kalimatin sawa'in. Let's come together on that which we are, together in this. So what was that? There were a lot of other sects that existed at that time, where this 28 years of life of Imam Hasan Askari was filled with combating with all of these different groups that existed within Madhab al-Tashayyu. We find that they were Mufawwidah, they were Ghullat, they were Waqifi, there was Tasawwuf, and there were other Sufigiri and other different sects that existed. Now Imam ﷺ has to present that none of these groups have anything to do with Madhab al-Tashayyu, and try to clear the name that those things aqaid that are associated. And that's why you see today within our own madhab, you find different people from different areas where some of these sects were very influential. Even those who are Mutashayyi, those who are Shia, they have sometimes infiltrated in their own sufuf some of these aqaid of Sufigari, some of the aqaid of Mufawwadah, some of the aqaid of other sects of Islam. Some said that it was the Imam Hussein's special duty to perform Amr bil-Nahi, Amr bil-Maruf and Nahi al-Munkar is wajib upon everyone, with conditions that it doesn't entail any harm to you. Imam Hussein knows the harm, so why did he go ahead with this? This was, the example is given that there was a special duty of Imam ﷺ. That's why you don't find the life of any other Imam to go ahead and do a similar thing what Imam Hussein had to do, which is a good thing. Only one Imam had to go ahead and present the sacrifice, which was sufficient so that no other Imam had to do the same thing, and no one will come and pose any threats to the later Imams. What Imam Hussein was able to establish and was able to achieve, no other Imam afterward had to stand up and take such a route to go ahead and present that great, shahadat, which Imam Hussein had did. So there was only one Karbala in all senses. Yes, there were other smaller Karbalas that took place, but there was only one Karbala and there was only one Ashura that took place. That was the duty of third Imam. Now, it wasn't really that. We said it was the duty of third Imam only. We have given a lot of, examples as to why third Imam did it, second Imam didn't do it, fourth Imam couldn't do it, fifth Imam didn't do it, sixth Imam didn't have the opportunity, and likewise all the other Ma'sumin. But the fact that they are combating with all of these different groups in their time tells you that there's this silent inqilab which was happening in the time of all the other Ma'sumin as well. It wasn't that they were sitting idly and not doing anything. No, our 11th Imam is constantly at war with all of these people. So we find one of the things in this reference, we see the politics of Imam Hasan Askari. He, by removing the doubts, which created by Mufawwidah, the Waqifiyya, the Sufi, and all of these others, these people were coming in, presenting themselves to be Mutashayyi, they were presenting themselves to be Shia, because Waqifi were Shia up until the 7th Imam. They followed 7th Imam, and then they stopped. Mufawwidah the same way. The other sects are the same way, how they presented, and then later on they were in such a way. So with these aqaid creeping in, it was necessary for someone to go ahead and clarify all of these things. And Imam Hasan Askari did that with such openness that he declared those who are not, who are tampering with the religion, or those who are causing doubts in it. So Imam ﷺ was able to bring the minds of Muslims of that time towards reality. He put an end to the divisions which were starting in Islam and establishing this wahdat amongst the Muslimin at first, and then eventually wahdat amongst the others as well. Imam Askari, in order to rein the political conditions, used the method of taqiyya. And that method sometimes is misunderstood. Sixth Imam said, "At-taqiyyatu dini wa dinu abai la dina liman la taqiyyata lahu." That taqiyya is my deen and it's the deen of our Aba. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It is the deen, it's my deen, it's the deen of my Aba, and there's no one who doesn't practice taqiyya. It is as if they don't have any deen. Now what does that mean? Does that mean we should go ahead and start practicing taqiyya in our time? That's where the application of taqiyya is misunderstood. And it's exploited by the non-Shias. They say, well, you can't come have any sort of agreement with the Shias. What do you know? They might be doing taqiyya. If they're saying, yeah, this is okay, this is okay, this is haram, this is haram, this is allowed, this is allowed, they might be doing taqiyya, right? For example, the fatwa of the Maraji, which says, don't curse or send la'nat on to the revered personalities of Ahl Tasannun. It's not out of taqiyya. If it was out of taqiyya, that would be a different story. That in certain areas, this would be applicable. It is a hukm shar'i, which a mufti or someone who's at the level of giving fatwa has passed. With all the historical facts that are there, true. But nobody's saying that you become their fond of them, you become their beloved, or you start, venerating them, or start, talking about unke jo aap wo padhna shuru kar dein, qaside padhna shuru kar dein. No, nobody's asking you to do that. But what fatwa is saying is not to curse or not to do la'na. And there's no taqiyya in this, none whatsoever. We're not doing this out of taqiyya. This fatwa is clear from that aspect. So if anyone thinks that this fatwa is given out of taqiyya, that is not the case. Yes, we know the historical backgrounds, some of these individuals, the things that have been mentioned in our books and in their books about them, which is unforgivable. So nobody's saying you start giving qasaid and you start writing poetry about them and their merits and whatnot. No. But at the same time, the fatwa is telling you that it is forbidden to go ahead and curse or to go ahead and send la'na because of the effects that it has. So Imam used taqiyya, 11th Imam, to bring the Muslims together. So it is allowed in order to bring Muslims together. But I wanted to separate, this fatwa has nothing to do with the taqiyya. So taqiyya means that for minor issues, now pay attention to this. Taqiyya means for minor issues, one shouldn't sacrifice and endanger the usul-e-din. So there are minor issues that exist which are not obligatory, they're not wajib or haram. When that's the case with these minor issues which are neither haram or wajib, you should not endanger your usul-e-din for those issues. Or due to some conflicting issues, we tamper with the unity of Islam by which the enemy could penetrate and control us. Now there are some conflicting issues between us and Ahl Sunnah. They agree, we agree. They will be the first ones to go out and say, we in fact had a conference here, before the pandemic hit us last year. I attended it in DC area. There were a lot of Ahl Sunnah ulama, scholars from Ahl Sunnah known in the United States, 12, 15 of them. And similarly, some of the scholars of Ahl Tashayyu, 12, 15 of them, they gathered. There was a summit that took place over 2-3 days. And in it, these were the discussions. We openly mentioned some of the stereotypes that we have about Ahl Tasannun and some of the stereotypes that they have about Ahl Tashayyu. A lot of the things that they had about us, our laymen would not even know about those things. For example, one of the things that they had about Ahl Tashayyu is that we send la'nat on Jibreel Amin, na'udhu. That at the conclusion of our salat, we say Khan al-Amin, Khan al-Amin, Khan al-Amin. That means Jibreel did khayanat, Jibreel did khayanat, Jibreel did khayanat. What does that mean? Jibreel was supposed to bring wahi to Amirul Mu'mineen, and he by mistake brought it to Rasulullah. I don't think any one of the Shi'as, lay person, I'm saying, would know about this. But this is something which is known by masses of Ahl Sunnah. Their public knows this, while our public does not even know this, that there's such a thing that exists. So this doubt is somewhere created. What do we say? Come and look at the salat. Namaz ends when we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now namaz has ended. You're out of that takbiratul ihram, after which those things become haram. You're out of salat as soon as you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So that our salat begins with Allah is the greatest and our salat ends with Allah is the greatest. What is more tawheed? Where would you find more tawheed than in our salat? That our salat begins in the name of Allah and our salat ends in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what is said. But unfortunately, it is a common theme amongst the brothers of Ahl Sunnah that they think that this is what the Shia practice is. And then similar to that, there are 12 or 15 things that were written on the board by their ulama that were some of the stereotypes they had. So coming back to the topic that I was discussing, taqiyya is the method in which Imam said, or due to some conflicting issues. So when there are conflicting issues, and if they're not something which has to do with your haram and wajibat, then do not do not tamper with the unity of the Muslimin. Now, there are certain things you will never agree upon, and nobody's asking you to agree upon them. You're not going to go ahead and change your aqidah, but you do sit with others, for example, at your workplace. There are many people that are of different aqidah than you, but you sit with them because there's something common between you, which is that workplace that you're working for, that company that you're working for, that boss that you're working for. The fact that you're working for the same boss and you have an objective, so you put all of these other things aside, you sit down and you work together. Similarly, there might be differences that exist. They agree, we agree, but that should not cause the tempering with the unity of Islam. So taqiyya is the method which insan uses in order to protect the fundamentals, the usul, the tawheed, the nubuwwat, the ma'ad, the Quran, and the Kaaba. Doesn't mention the conflicting issues. So those issues which could be easily avoided. Taqiyya in this way is entirely different from nifaq. A lot of people say, well, what's the difference between taqiyya and nifaq, especially the Sunnis? And the Sunnah will argue that taqiyya, isn't it another name for hypocrisy? Munafiqat. That you're saying and you're doing something which you don't really believe. Let's hypothetically speaking, although I have clearly mentioned the fatwa by the Maraji in regards to not swearing or sending la'anat on the revered personalities of the Sunnah, is not out of taqiyya. It's not out of taqiyya. I've said that before and I'm repeating it again. But let's say someone went ahead and said that, what is the difference? You're saying it is not, but you're saying it from in your heart. Isn't that munafiqah? Or you're not saying it in this gathering, but you're saying it in the other gathering. Isn't that munafiqah? So this is where it will develop the shape of munafiqat, but there's a difference between taqiyya and nifaq. Of course, this is out of taqiyya. We're not saying this because of taqiyya, because we're not fearful of anyone. Taqiyya has to be understood. It is done when you are fearful of your life. Do we have any fear of the other jama'at of Muslimin in this country especially? We don't. Or for any country for that matter. Is there any fear of the Shias from the Sunnis living in Pakistan or any other country for that matter? Not really. So with that said, it is not out of fear. So there's no fear. We are saying this without any fear. So taqiyya has this concept of fear in it. Fear of your life. When there's a fear of life, only then this has to be applied. So there's a difference between the two. What is the difference between munafiqat and taqiyya? First of all, they don't even go in the same line. But for some who think that way, this is how it is. You bear false in heart and you portray the truth. Whereas in taqiyya, you have the truth in your heart and you portray false from your tongue. That is the difference between munafiqah. Munafiq is someone who will bear the false aqidah in their heart, and then they will be saying what is truthful. That's why a lot of these people who are standing with Rasulullah, whom brothers consider to be Jalilul Qadr Ashab, some of those are revered. And they say, well, every one of those Sahabi were what? They were adil. That is not the case. They were ordinary people who made a lot of mistakes. And there's ayat of Quran regarding that. And therefore, there were some munafiqeen amongst the sufuf of Muslimin. So what are you going to do with those people? So there are certain groups with whom you cannot walk along. So I'm not saying that we go ahead and have this sort of Imam Imam also did the same thing. He did not go ahead and say, well, we believe in what the Mufawwada are believing in, or what the Sufis are saying, or what the others are saying. No, Imam didn't say any of these things. Rather, there are certain groups, even in our time, that we cannot walk along with. For example, like the Wahhabis. But I'm not even talking about the Wahhabis over here. I'm not even talking about those who are outside of the realm of the Shias over here. I'm actually focused in these last few days of the month of or the last few days of Ayyam Azar, right? 2.5 months of Ayyam Azar, last few days of Ayyam Azar. We are coming to a close. And within a few days, this Azar is, hypothetically, in our made-up way, is ending with the Shahadat of 11th Imam. But Azar is always there. It's there 24/7. It's there 365 days a year. It doesn't end on a certain date. It doesn't begin on a certain date. It's just that there's ahmiyat in these 2 months and 10 days. So there's certain groups we can't walk along with, such as the Wahhabis. But I am more concerned about our own Shia practices, which have divided us. Shias from Pakistan, Shias from Parachanar, Shias from Punjab, Shias from Hyderabad, the Shias from Lucknow, the Shias from Kuwait, the Shias from, Iran, the Shias from Iraq, the Shias from other Arab countries, the differences that we have sometimes amongst ourselves. What happens is that different ways of commemorating the Azah of Imam, and then taking pride in the way you do it, divide one Shia group from another. And there's a lot of division that is happening already. Here we can compromise some minor issues because we're all gathered under the flag of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Look at the picture. That kalimat sawa for all of us is Sayyid al-Shuhada. That is the reason we have all gathered together. Here we can compromise some of the minor issues which do not temper with our wajibat or muharramat. If someone is doing it in a certain way, let them do it. If we don't do it, don't impose it upon us. And then you reunite all of the Shias, and inshallah the other Muslims will come at another time. So that was the message of the entire discussion. I know I've run over my time. I had more discussions in reference to this and some examples, which maybe I'll share at another time. And there were some very important aqwal and the words of wisdom from our 11th Imam, especially in the time and the days that we are going through, which are relevant to us. Inshallah, I'll share them at another time, because if I do so right now, it will not serve justice. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq and ability to follow the commands and the teachings of 11th Imam, Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salatu wassalam, and hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam in the Hasan al-Hadith. وأبلغ المؤذن كتاب الله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم. سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضبه وبسط اليدين بالرحمة. سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها. سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا هو صفحا. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو اللطيف على العباد بجوده ولفظ المذنبين بحلمه. ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين صلى الله عليه وآله. على قد أمركم الله بمحكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذرة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن حسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان مع أحياء آثار الرد والطغيان هادم أبنيته والشرك هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق وحاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آباء الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا وكن ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال ولب الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحلو ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحلو بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. अल्लाहुम्मा जअलना मिम्मन यद्दक्करु फतनफ़अहु ज़िक्र इन्नल्लाह यअमुरु बिल-अदलि वल इहसान व ईताइ ज़िल क़ुरबा व यनहा अनिल फ़हशाइ वल मुनकर वल बग़ी यअइज़ुकुम लअल्लकुम तज़क्करून।